Welcome to the Executive Eye by DRI, your lens into the world of executive leadership. Here, we bring you sharp insights, clear perspectives, and focused discussions on the trends shaping the future of business. Join us as we explore what's in view for today's leaders and tomorrow's innovators.
Welcome to the Executive Eye, the official podcast of Direct Recruiters, Inc., where we bring you insights on executive search and leadership. I'm Celeste Gable, and I'm so excited to introduce our very first guest, Dan Charney, President and CEO of Direct Recruiters. With over 25 years of experience and a visionary approach, Dan has been instrumental in growing DRI into a globally recognized firm and is a thought leader in executive search and talent management. Today, he'll share his journey, leadership lessons, and what he sees for the future of executive recruitment. Dan, thanks for being here today.
Hey, Celeste. Thanks for the introduction, and extremely happy to be here.
Beautiful. We'll get right started. Okay.
Cool.
Dan, could you tell me about your background, your trajectory in executive search, and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I have been in executive search for over 25 years. I started, believe it or not, right out of school, right out of college. You often hear that people don't go to college to get into the search business. I was a little bit different in that I grew up around the search business. My father was an executive recruiter. He retired a few years ago. He did not manage anyone. He didn't own his firm. He simply worked, I shouldn't say simply, but he worked a desk, placing mostly people in the plastics and rubber industry. And I grew up watching him having a tremendous amount of success in the industry. I heard him on calls at night, and I thought that this is really cool. Was in sales starting in high school. Back then in the 90s, it was telemarketing, and I kind of had a thing for it. Believe it or not, I enjoyed speaking with people. I felt the things that the products and solutions that I was selling back then really had value, and I was comfortable speaking with complete strangers on the phone. I was also very competitive growing up, and all the jobs I had kind of had this leaderboard. And how long you were on the phone, how many calls you were making, how many sales you had. And I saw it as a way outside of sports to challenge myself every day and to kind of be on that leaderboard. And that was really, really cool to me. So I got done with school. I said, hey, Dad, how about I do what you do? And he said, I think you'd be really good at it. Good luck. And that turned out to be probably the best thing ever. Him and I have a great relationship. We were able to bounce deal stuff off each other my first few years in the business, but I found this really cool company called Direct Recruiters just answered an ad in the paper. It turned out Cleveland's a really small town. At least it feels small for the most part. And there were people that I knew that knew Direct Recruiters and the owner of the company, a guy named Shel Myroff, who was obviously a huge part of my journey and a mentor to me. And Shelly, I was 22 years old. He took a really big chance on me, really, again, small startup feeling firm. And he didn't want to hire me at first. He said, Dan, you're too young. I'm looking for someone a little bit. And I said, I promise I'll do whatever you want me to do. But I liked the firm because we had this little small niche in manufacturing, something I knew nothing about, but I thought it was really cool and really interesting. And I just had a gut feel that he was onto something. And I joined the company as an entry-level researcher / recruiter. And I really learned it through the apprentice model. Had a cubicle outside of Shelly's office. He heard every conversation that I made. And that was my life for a couple of years.
Wow. So you've had a long and lengthy career in executive search, and so has DRI. I mean, DRI has been around for many decades.
Yep.
How have you seen the industry transform over the years?
Boy, so I would say when I started, and I already did age myself, so I'll spare us that. It was the beginning of the internet. The AET, the applicant tracking system, was fairly basic. LinkedIn was, I don't even think, a thing. I think it started my second or third year in the industry. There was no job board. So I will never, I wish everyone coming into the industry learned the way I did,
Mhm.
because it was pick up the phone. It was true headhunting. It
Yeah.
was it was pick up the phone and it was call people, source names, meaning you're talking to a gatekeeper, secretary, and trying to find or chart a company and find out who does what. And it was truly just, I loved it because it was problem solving. It was most of the time starting from scratch. It was extremely challenging. It was a lot of getting hung up on if you didn't have your messaging perfect. So it was a challenge every single day. And I remember just being a fairly young guy, and I remember that just like my peer group, my friends, my girlfriend, now my wife, like we were 22 years old, and I remember telling them always, like, I have to be on point tomorrow. Like,
Mhm.
there is no, like, it's going to be a sleepy day. In order to be successful, I have to be the very best version of me. And that's how it was. But I loved it. I think it just going back to that kind of competitive nature of just wanting to solve the problem and make a placement. And I got addicted to that whole process.
What major changes have you witnessed in terms of how companies look for leadership talent today compared to when DRI first started?
Yeah, so I think as when I first started, I think it was more of a situation where companies really grew leaders from within the organization. I think we saw a lot more of that the early 2000s, late 90s. I think today, when companies make changes at the leadership level, I find that usually they want a little bit more of a pedigree coming from the outside. I think it's probably less about which university you went to now, but more about the leader did this at this size company, then progressed their career to this size company, then they worked with PE over here, so they understand private money and private investment, maybe how to work with boards over. So it's kind of that progression.
Mhm.
And I think because of that, our business has been extremely good because companies are hiring recruiters to go out and find that talent, maybe as opposed to growing that talent from their farm system where someone's been at the company for 25 years, only knows that company and that culture. Not saying that's a bad thing, because I think I've seen that work a lot. To your question, how I've seen things change, I think organizations are looking for more of a pedigree coming from the outside. And I think that pedigree, today, I'm seeing private equity and boards really want a diverse pedigree.
Mhm. You mentioned earlier that LinkedIn wasn't really a thing when you were up and coming. So, with the rise of AI and new technologies, how do you foresee the future of executive search changing? And what are maybe some opportunities or risks for the industry?
Yeah, so I think the opportunities are AI is it's incredible. I think if used the right way, and I have the same fears that I think most of the population has. If used the wrong way, like anything else, or it gets in the hands of bad actors, it could be a problem, of course. But that's technology. We've said that about everything. We've said that about the internet, obviously. So I think AI in general is extremely positive. As it relates to the search business, I feel that search work will always be about relationships, and I feel that that relationship it comes from communication, live talking like we're doing. However, I think that AI is going to make us extremely efficient. I think it's going to give us, as far as automation within what we do, I think it's going to allow us to reach out to the masses in different ways. I think that overall, it is extremely positive
Mhm.
for the search business. And if you're not adopting it, then I think that that's going to be a huge problem. if we're relying solely on AI, whether that be internal talent acquisition, I think that it could create some biases. We haven't taught AI. It just kind of looks at things, to the best of my knowledge, fairly black and white. So I think if we're relying solely on AI to come up with a slate of candidates, I think we're missing. I think if we're going to use AI in addition to that relationship building that we spoke about, again, I think tremendously powerful.
Yeah. So to use it, more so as a tool to your already repertoire rather than a replacement.
I think for now that's the key. We'll talk later, I think, about education and things like that. But that's where my focus has been as far as learning is different ways to use AI, and that's been just so cool. And I think it's to be embraced for sure.
Yeah. That's great. So, given what we just discussed, you have a great amount of insight on leadership in general, as you not only lead an organization yourself, but you have spent years of your career helping other organizations find the best leaders. So, first of all, could you describe your own leadership style and how has it evolved throughout your career?
So I would say my leadership style is to hire really smart entrepreneurs that want to build a business within our business, provide a basic set of guidelines and core values that are supposed to be followed, and then let those leaders build businesses within our business, a true professional service model. My leadership style has changed in that early on in my career, as I mentioned, I was a good recruiter. I had the ability to develop business. I had to hire people to supplement my desk and my client base. There was really no opportunity to learn, I would say, leadership. We were truly building the plane as we flew it. So I think my leadership style has changed, where I used to want to be really controlling and it should look this way and the process should look exactly this way and the fee should be this. And I think as we grew and we continue to scale and the goal was to retain our top people, I think it was truly the opposite. It was allow people to do what I did, which is make a ton of mistakes, learn from them, and grow from them, as opposed to, as recruiters, we're kind of controlling. We want to control the process. And I think that is the complete opposite of how we've been able to scale this company. It's been be less controlling, let our partners and associates make mistakes. Hopefully they learn from them. And from a leadership standpoint, be patient enough to allow them to go through that process, knowing we're going to come out as a better company on the other side of that.
That's fantastic. I think that's such a unique way of thinking about leadership, really letting people find their footing and just being there as that support system for them to fall back on.
Yeah, I just, if anyone's watching this, I would say key word being patience. Patience with myself, allowing myself to make mistake and forgiving myself and treating people the same.
Wow, I love that. So from your experience, what are the key traits and skills that hiring managers are most keen on when selecting top executives today?
Yeah, I think number one, what I would call self-awareness, which is, and I've seen numbers on this, actually, how rare it is. And I don't know where studies, how they measure self-awareness, but I'll just use that word. I think that's something that's really rare in people. And I think hiring managers today are really looking for someone that knows what they're good at. Probably more importantly, knows what they're not good at, knows how to do more of what they're good at, and delegate what they're not as good at. I think more and more organizations are thriving with people that have a great level of self-awareness. And that's what I look at in the folks that we hire and that ascend through our organizations. That's what I'm trying to work on myself, and that's what I'm urging our clients. As opposed to we understand technical skill set. Yeah, you either have that or you don't. Emotional intelligence, obviously. I think if we could truly measure self-awareness, and this is probably a different podcast, but I think if we could interview for that, that truly is going to allow organizations to scale if leadership has that trait.
Mm. So, in your opinion, how important are qualities like emotional intelligence, resilience, adaptability in today's leadership roles?
So I'll start with adaptability. I think paramount, and we just kind of went through this with COVID and all of it, and we've been through the Great Recession. We've been through the .com. So again, for myself, there's some wear and tear through all of that, and every single one of those events with COVID, I would put number one is a level of adaptability. So what does that look like for us? We trained our recruiters truly using the apprenticeship model. They learned by sitting here, just same way I did, outside of my office, and they heard everything I said. I heard everything they said, and it was desk side coaching. And I was convinced that's the only way to learn this business. It's not. COVID taught us that. The post-COVID boom that our business in particular had taught us that there is a different way. We had to adapt. We had to build a culture with remote employees, hybrid employees, employees that are here at the office every single day, employees that are out of state. The merger that we went through, how do we, so it's 100% all adaptability. I think most leaders truly understand that. I think the leaders that are thriving today will thrive tomorrow, understand that it's not like I adapted, I'm cool. It's that I adapted today, this month, this year. The world is moving so fast, as we all know. It's continuous adaptability that separates, in my opinion, the great leaders from the leaders. Knowing that adaptability or growth or going the other way, going backward, it's not in a vacuum. It's constantly changing, and it's changing faster than ever before. So adaptability, as far as AI, technology, the way the business is done, how we reach out to candidates, from your standpoint, how we market, it's continuously changing. So I think that is the key to the success of organization. I would call it continuous adaptability.
So, how do you balance setting ambitious goals with managing the everyday challenges that arise within an organization? I feel like adaptability has to play some part in that, correct?
So it does, but I'm gonna, as far as goals go, I'll go back on what I just said, because I'm very much if we set a goal. So first off, going back to our professional services organization, Dan Charney's not setting the goal for the company. The partners and the associates are setting their own goals. My job is to help them achieve their goals. Mm-hmm. So I believe in truly it's servant leadership. If a partner says, I want to be the biggest producer in my space, I'm going to hold myself accountable to help them get there. If they tell me I just want to do this or that's okay too. So I think it is, as far as adaptability goes, my job is to help people reach their goals, whatever they may be. But I'll also say when we have a goal, we're not changing it midway through the year. So there's no adapting. Okay, interest rates went up or down, so we're going to change our goal. We stick to it. And I think it's important that our organization has the mentality, we're not going to change the goal line. We're going to fight it out to the very end. And if we lose, we lost. We didn't predict right. Part of being a leader is being a good predictor, we all know. And that's okay. We could lose sometimes, but we do not change our goal no matter what the economic condition is. And because of that, we have to take the walk of shame sometimes. We didn't do it. We put our head down and we mourn it.
Yeah. I think just keeping moving forward is probably the most important takeaway from that.
That's it. It's just hard work. It's the mentality. If we're behind on our goal, it's October 9th today. Okay. But we're not going to chase it. We're not going to take shortcuts. We're going to keep working hard, keep grinding. And we missed our goal this year. Next year, we'll be better predictors. We'll work harder and we'll work smarter.
Fantastic. So, what role does a company's culture play in achieving long-term success? And how can leaders shape that culture?
So culture's another word I think that gets tossed out there. I think it's not rare that companies have a set of core values or we have core values and life laws. That's what's there. And that needs to be our North Star. Like, if there's an issue, we go back to that. So I get it. Those are life laws. I don't feel that and culture are the same thing. I view culture very much like adaptability. It is ongoing. It is always changing. There is no end game as it comes to culture. I think culture always needs to be worked on. I think it needs to be acknowledged when, hey, maybe this doesn't feel right. This maybe isn't the culture that we want. I think there's micro cultures on every single team within our organization. We need to embrace that. Some teams are like, I don't like the way they necessarily do things. That's okay. That's why we're a professional services organization and we're a team and a team of teams, I should say. So I think embracing the microculture, but also just the understanding that culture is it's its own living, breathing thing. I think culture for us in a really challenging business where we deal with a lot of very successful people and candidly a lot of tremendous egos. I think my philosophy and what I hope my legacy is, we worked in this really competitive industry. We were really successful. And we had a ton of fun. And I even go further, and we laughed a lot. I think for our business, that's just fundamentally very serious and very stoic. And as far as what we do, it's one of the most stressful parts of anyone's life. I think just bringing some levity to that, I hope that that is a part of our culture. And I think Celeste around the office, I think that's what I try to bring to the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. This has been one of the most fun jobs I've ever had, whether that's we're doing something that's a planned event or, just being around the people that work here. They bring, levity, as you mentioned, to really stressful situations, whether, you're trying to find a placement and the timeline is really short, that sort of thing, but just keeping that positive mindset. And I think you are absolutely a proponent of that culture here at DRI.
So I hope Andrew sits outside my office and I was walking around yesterday and I was singing Ice Cube.
Yeah.
And he just shook his head and sat down. But I hope that later that night when he reflects on his day or later, he just said, okay.
Yeah.
Just that level of just kind of fun. I hear him out there all day and it's a grind. So just the idea that gotta laugh at each other a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked earlier about the Great Recession that you worked through as well as COVID. So what advice would you give to executives looking to remain agile and innovative during periods of uncertainty or economic downturns?
Yeah, I learned this from Jeff Kay at Kay Bassman, now our partner at Starfish Partners. It real simple. Don't be attached to any outcome. I think when you're attached to all in-person work, all at-home work, the business needs to be done this certain way. I think that's really, really dangerous. So as we look at maybe when sailing is not as smooth, it's just making good decisions, trying to make good decisions. If they don't work, pivoting quickly and running the other way, but being attached to absolutely nothing. The forces outside are too great. Hopefully I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm powerless when it comes to certain things. but I have the idea that I'm going to do the best I can, steer the company the best way I know how, rely on my inner circle, my partners to help make good decisions, but be attached to zero outcome, meaning I'm not going to keep going down a path if it's not working, pointless to me. So I would just give leaders the advice to not be attached to an outcome. Make the best decisions you can, not be afraid to make mistakes. But when it's going the wrong way and you made a poor decision, stick with it. Run the other way, do the opposite, and you're going to find your sweet spot. And that's going to be usually some type of compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what mindset or strategies would you suggest to leaders to help stay positive and forward thinking when faced with adversity?
Well, I think for me personally, I'm just going to speak to myself here. If I have a positive mindset, it's because of the folks I surround myself with. That kind of, I want to surround myself with realists, but I would say positive realists.
Mm-hmm.
I personally just need that because I think my job is to watch out for pitfalls that the organization might encounter. And by very nature, that's kind of a negative thing. So it's when times are good, a good leader isn't, patting themselves on the back. They're looking for what can go wrong. That could be a very lonely, negative thing.
Yes.
So I think to encounter that, it's surrounding myself with my partners that are a little bit more positive, and that helps keep me positive. So I talk to leaders all the time that I feel like put themselves on an island, maybe, and that's such a lonely place. And I'm so grateful for just my family here that I never feel lonely, and they always have a glass half full mentality. So that's I don't know if I necessarily have the positive. So what's ingrained in me is what's coming, what do we have to do? So it's always what's next.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say that surrounding yourself with smart, positive people has been a game changer for me. Yeah, I've been with this company again. This is my 26th year. Celeste, I've had I would say 15 jobs here.
Wow.
So it is a lifelong journey of learning, of making mistakes, of having a lot of great people to celebrate a lot of wins with. I will say that what we do in placing people and changing the trajectory of their life, their family, the organization that we place them with, there's nothing more rewarded. As I said earlier in the podcast, if I'm 100% guilty, I'm addicted to that. So I would say it is 100% a lifelong journey, but it's not just leadership. It's also staying very close to just the blocking and tackling of everyday search. So I love the business. I love the sourcing. I love the recruiting. I love going through the process, like all of that. It's the best job ever. It stinks when it goes wrong, but I'm very confident in the process that we have, and it works a lot more than it doesn't. So 100%, it has been my lifelong journey, and it's not close to being over. I think the second half of it, maybe the second quarter of it, is going to be a lot better than the first part of it because of the team we have and because of the lessons we've learned.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you've worn many different hats here at Direct Recruiters and had to learn, many different skills. But what are some ways busy executives can incorporate learning into their routines, even with demanding schedules?
Yeah, so I would say we're an EOS company, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. EOS teaches us as leaders to take clarity breaks, meaning we're in the business the majority of the time. It's really important to just kind of get outside these four walls and work on the business. And that's something that I started, I'm in a Vistage group that we get outside the office one Wednesday a month, and we meet just with other leaders around Cleveland, and we talk about issues and we talk about our organization. So going into that Wednesday, I dread it. I don't sleep. I don't want to go. I have to be there. I can't go.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, when the meeting's over, it's one of the best parts of my month, because I come back as such a I wouldn't say a better leader, I think a better person. So I think it's really, really important for leaders to make time and just book, like from a long time ago, the E-Myth, working on the business versus working in the business. Every leader needs to do both. Yes, you need to roll up your sleeves and work in the business 100%, but a good amount of time needs to be devoted to working on the business, taking that clarity break and just devoting to learning is it can't overstate this how important that is.
That's fantastic. And a nice opportunity for you to get outside ideas and stuff for maybe issues that you're facing internally as well.
100%. It's so easy to get stuck in this place, but there's a big world out there with a lot of organizations, and there's so much to learn, and there's so many people that are utilizing AI better than us, running a service business better. So there's so much stuff out there. If we're inwardly focused and it's just Starfish Partners, direct recruiters, KBAT, there's so much to learn from other organizations. I think that's if you're not spending time doing that, you're selling your people short.
So what resources or tools have you found most helpful in your own lifelong learning journey?
Yeah, so I'm constantly, and I was brought up in the industry, you're always training. And that was Shel Myroff, who used to tell me, you're training on recruiting every single day, and you're training on the industry you recruit in every single day. And that is your vitamin. That is taking your vitamins. That is a habit. So for me, I'm not a huge business book person, but I will read kind of the latest and greatest. I reference a lot of books to the company when we do our State of the Unions and things like that. But for me, every day, it's the Wall Street Journal. It's looking where investment dollars are being spent. So it's looking at where VC and PE are spending monies in the industries, and making sure that we are playing in the industries that are growing. It's podcasts. I think the Acquired podcast and Pivot. Those are things I listen to. Acquired and Pivot. Those are just CEO. A little bit about news. They have CEOs on talking about kind of their points of view on things. I think AI is. I'll mention two podcasts, Scary Smart, which I've been listening to, which is awesome, and AI Superpowers is another great one that are just talking about the future and how AI is going to affect all of us. So those are a few things that keep me busy.
That's really cool. Well, we have really appreciated your insight on leadership and executive search, and we want to give listeners just a little more about how you operate and your inspiration. So how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance? And what advice would you give to others striving for the same?
So as far as physically, I have to do something physical that's kind of how a lot of my stress relieves. So I work out every day at lunch time if I can. If I don't do it then, it's I'm not like a 4 a.m. guy, but lunchtime gives me a lot of energy for the afternoon.
Yeah.
Where I feel like maybe that's where some people go downhill a little. I feel like I'm kind of ascending during the afternoons. That's one. I try not at night. I try to. It's not as much going out to dinners or going here or there. It's more. I just like relaxing. I like having downtime. I like that reading time in the morning is kind of I feel like when I'm reading the journal, it doesn't have to be that, but when I'm reading that, I feel like gives me a good feeling that I'm on top of things, and it's like a non-stress time for me. I do watch a lot of news, but I watch. I'm not fixated on one news outlet. I kind of want to hear where everyone's coming from, and I feel a sense of kind of that keeps me sane. I think just understanding that. Healthy family life. I mean, I'm an empty nester now, but I think being active in what my kids are doing and what they're studying and what they're going through, that provides a lot of, it grounds me quite a bit, and just an outstanding family and the best friends in the world. And a lot of people here at DRI are my very best friends. And I talk to them on weekends. I talk to them at night. And again, we go through the issues of the day. We have fun and we laugh a lot, and I think that kind of keeps me in a good mode.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. So lastly, we just want to ask you a round of fun rapid fire questions. Just first that comes to your mind, no pressure here. But what's the last movie you watched?
Boy, I'm embarrassed to say this. I haven't sat down on it, but I watched. It took me a while to see Oppenheimer, but I watched.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah, that one was like a huge cultural impact, I think. Everybody was going to see Oppenheimer when it was out. But that's a long movie, so props to you for sitting down and watching that one.
Yeah. Trying to think if I saw something there, but yeah.
Oppenheimer. What TV show are you binging right now?
Boy, I'm way behind on. I love Suits.
Yeah.
Love Harvey. And it's such a long series. I'm watching the Tulsa King with Stallone.
Yeah. Wow.
Which I think it's on Paramount. I recommend it. Fun show. So yeah, so I'd say those two. I've been spending some time with.
What's your go-to coffee order?
Black coffee. Yeah, nothing fancy. Yeah.
No cream, no sugar, just straight up.
Yeah, just straight.
That's fantastic.
But it's every morning.
Yeah.
Decent amount of coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you an afternoon coffee drinker as well, or strictly in the morning?
Drink just morning.
Yeah, that's how I am.
Just morning. Lot of water during the day. No, nothing else really. Pretty boring.
Yeah. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
I've said this a lot of times. I would say it'd be Abraham Lincoln or Steve Jobs.
Those are both fantastic choices, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Dan, for kicking off the Executive Eye and sharing your valuable insights with us today. It's been an inspiring conversation, and we truly appreciate your time and expertise. And to our listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. Then if you're looking to connect with top talent or explore leadership opportunities, Direct Recruiters is here to help. With decades of experience and a relationship-driven approach, we're committed to connecting the right leaders with the right organizations. Visit our website to learn more. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Celeste. Props to Christy. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Executive Eye by DRI. Stay connected with us for more insights on leadership and industry trends. Follow the Executive Eye on LinkedIn or visit our website at directrecruiters.com. Until next time, keep your eye on executive leadership.